Well, welcome to Change Your World. This is Tom Hurd. I'm here with my lovely wife, Linda, and my eldest son, Kyle. And we're going to talk today a little bit about, I don't know, just it's hard to come up with a title, I guess, but the differences in thought, maybe, or differences in ideology between conservatives and liberals. We've always felt like not only do we talk about the topics, the current events and that sort of thing, but also we want to kind of give a reason for re- the stances that we take, or there's basics of your belief system is pretty much going to um, inform where you come down on most issues. Uh, and we just think it's important that people need to know what they believe and why they believe it, and not just because the cool people say one thing, or the guy on the TV says another thing, or whatever, or this movie star who I like his movies tells me I should hate Donald Trump, so I guess I'll hate Donald Trump. You got to know what you believe, why you believe it, and then research people say to see if they're telling you the truth about the things that are being reported, and then make up your own. Um, that's the beautiful thing about living in the United States of America is you do have freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and freedom of speech, um, and you are free to determine what you believe about anything you want. So anyway, that's what we're in a roundabout way. That's what we're going to kind of get to today. So we thought we would start out with kind of the difference between liberals and conservatives and the way that they look at things, and kind of go from there. Kyle dug up a good quote by P.J. O'Rourke. You want to read that?
Yeah, I can. Before we get started, too, I'd also like to say that you don't have to take our word for this either. Um,
Mm,
you know, you can do your own research and prove
absolutely.
us wrong if you
Yeah,
feel inclined.
that's right. And you
Um,
don't have to agree with us.
yeah,
Certainly don't agree with us, right?
and that's another thing that makes America such a great place is um, the number of ideas and because if everybody thinks the same, you get in that echo chamber and
Yeah,
nothing gets better. So.
exactly.
But this quote that we were talking about,
Yeah.
it's not really conservative and liberal. It's Democrat and Republican. But it says the Democrats are the party that says that government will make you smarter, taller, richer, and remove the crabgrass on your lawn. The Republicans are the party that says that government doesn't work, and then they get elected and prove it.
Mhm.
That's from P.J. O'Rourke.
That's right. And that video you shared with us the other day about Democrats versus Republicans was cute.
And
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
their daughter,
yeah,
U.S.
America.
right.
America. Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, we're living in a time right now where there's really a bigger divide among people. Maybe not a bigger divide, but a more harsh divide, more just really nasty rhetoric
Mm,
coming up from both
from
sides.
both
But
sides, yeah.
um, so
I think
it's
that's kind of the culture that we're in, though.
true.
Kind of the internet culture where, I mean, I
Civility's
love the
gone.
internet. Don't get me wrong. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it kind of um, fosters
Yeah,
that
it
idea,
does.
that mindset or whatever that you need to, and I fall into it too. You need to prove everybody wrong, and I mean,
Yeah,
I try to go about it as respectfully as I can, but when you just get tired of arguing with somebody, you just want
yeah.
to call them Hitler or terrible person, and
Well,
you know,
there was years ago on Saturday Night Live. There was a point counterpoint. Uh, Probably this is before your time. They would, I think it was Dan Aykroyd and Jane. They would, because there was a TV show, there was a news show called Counter, where liberal woman and a conservative man would argue the issues back and forth. And then on this Saturday Night Live skit, they would do that, and then they would always get to Dan Aykroyd would ultimately say, "Jane, you ignorant slut," and then launch into some real nasty thing. Then it would get just nasty from there. But that's kind of where we are today. Nobody really wants to. The exchange of ideas is supposed to be a good thing. Debate does not mean nasty, mean argument. It just means debate. You say your points, I say my points. We go back and forth. We're trying to convince the other one, but it's done with respect, and it's done, measure of decorum and everything else, and we've lost that.
Yes.
They can't even do that in Washington.
No.
That's why nothing is getting done. And we just caught a clip. I'm not even sure who the gentleman, but he was on a college campus, and now I guess the president had signed that executive order about basically equal time.
Well, it
that you
basically
couldn't.
says you can't anybody from speaking because of their ideas or their
Right.
stand.
Or you
But-
lose your federal funding or
Federal
something.
funding.
Right.
The
Well,
college
I mean,
does.
I don't know how effective it is, because this gentleman was speaking, and it was all these women that were kind of, I couldn't tell if they were a woman or a man, shouting. One actually got into a shove match with the speaker. And then they had this person on the ground, the police, and then these other women were kicking the policeman. I mean, it was just ridiculous that, you said that free speech. That's kind of almost, it's really sad to say that we don't really have, unless you're the cool guy, like you said, or the liberal, or the popular one, or the Hollywood celebrity, unless your speech lines up with theirs, then that's fine. That's good free speech. But otherwise, no, if you don't agree with us, you don't get to say anything.
Well,
we
I
kick you
don't
when
think
you're
we should
down.
say that they don't have free speech. I mean, free speech, as far as the Constitution goes, means you can't be arrested for having your ideas. But if you get up in front of a bunch of people that don't like what you're saying, it doesn't allow you not to be beat up. I mean, you shouldn't be, because we live in a civilized society. But if
Well,
you
it
get
does
up in
kinda
front
make
of a
you
bunch
shouldn't
of
be beat up.
No, you shouldn't be beat
African
up.
American people and you start using racial slurs, it is your free speech to do that. But when you get
Right.
beat up, it's
But yeah, but you're talking about two different things. If I'm walking to a group of whatever people, whatever, pick your people, and I come up to them and I start saying nasty things to them, and I degrade them and everything else, and one of them takes a swing at me, okay, then you're going to see that. But when we're talking about a
person's been
prepared
invited
speech, college campus, you can't have them beat you up if they disagree with what you say.
No, I'm not saying that they should beat you up, but I'm saying his right to free speech is not being infringed by that. He's not being arrested for saying what he said. I just wanted to clarify.
Who's not being beaten up for saying what he said?
No, I'm saying he's not being arrested for saying what he's saying. That is what free speech says. The government will not jail or impede you from, saying what you want to say, even if it's, because I mean, in these people's opinions.
But the government, just because it's not the government that's doing the arresting, the police can't stand by and let this mob beat you to death.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I totally agree with that. But, I mean, it's just like if you got up in front of a bunch of African Americans and said a bunch of racial slurs and they beat you up, the police are supposed to protect you from that as well. But,
sure.
Even if you're saying awful things. So I'm just saying that we shouldn't say that, free speech has gone away or whatever.
Well, it hasn't yet, but it's really, borderline, in some places, especially on college campuses, unless you agree with what this mob, these people that have been basically brainwashed by their liberal professors and what they believe is the truth. If you don't line up with their speech, then you're shouted down. You can't even speak. You're just like this man. He was almost assaulted by these people, and then they get pulled to the ground, and then they're kicking the policeman trying to get this person up off the ground. Because they didn't think it was right that the policeman jumped this person.
So that really is an assault on free speech at that point. I mean, I get what you're saying, Kyle. You're taking it to the nth degree of what. It's just like we had.
Well, I don't want it to get to this point where like so many people do. We get mad at people on the other side for jumping to these. I forget the word I'm trying to think of, but I don't want it to seem like we're saying that free speech is gone, and
it's not gone, but it is under assault, I believe.
Yeah,
especially on the college campuses. That's why the president had to sign this executive order.
Yeah, but even with the college campuses, if you have your own private business, you can restrict speech in your business, correct?
Yeah.
So like free speech, what it stands for. I mean, it doesn't mean that, just like on the left, it doesn't mean that all of your ideas everyone has to listen to and believe, or
absolutely not.
You're repressing my rights.
Well, let me ask you a question though. Would you, when Facebook takes conservative voices off, when they, well, I forget what they call it. There's a word for it. When they remove conservative voices from speaking on Facebook, are they I mean, their platform. That's the town square of the 21st century, where anybody can get on there and anybody can speak their mind. And we live in a society where there's an arena of ideas every day, and people advocate for one or whatever. And when you have some outside entity putting their finger on the scale, then they are curtailing free speech. Would you not agree?
Well, I mean, it depends on. I mean, I think that needs to be decided whether Facebook and Twitter and all the social media things, whether they are a service or a whatever you just said earlier.
Well, they
try
and take it both ways. They seek protections of being a news organization. They seek so they can't get in trouble for anything. So they seek the protections of being a broadcaster or a news agency. And then at the same time, when people attempt to use that platform to share ideas that Facebook doesn't like, or Twitter or any of these, and then they get censored, then they're playing by both sets of rules. So I agree with you. There has to be some.
Because if you owned the city hall, the town square, or whatever, like you personally owned it, or your corporation owned it, then you could say what can and can't be done here, what can and can't be said here.
Right, but you can't then at the same time consider yourself a bastion for free speech and.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's hypocritical to say that, but I'm saying from a legal standpoint or whatever.
Yeah,
it's within their rights. We may not like it. I mean, even on a university. Private university.
University gets public funding.
I was supposed to say a private university. I mean, they can say you can't have that sign here, or you can't.
Right.
Yeah, a private one, but not a public funded one. And then they talk about freedom from supporting any one religion over the other. This is a religion. This way of thinking. And you're promoting one over the other,
Yeah.
and this is public money, our taxpayer money going to, pay for these universities, that part of the educational taxing system, so it shouldn't be that one gets a louder voice than the other, but it is,
Yeah.
where the other one's totally drown out, you know.
I agree with what you're saying. I was just, I don't know. I didn't want to take it everything too far. Like that's what I was trying to think of before. It's always the end of the world, and I didn't
No.
want us to partake in that.
No, I mean, it's just that we need to, I think about it a lot because of the grandchildren, and Bailey's 1 year out now going to university. And I just pray that, they come home and they tell you, Mom and Dad, this is what they said at school, or this is what we're learning, or that, that you ask questions and keep up with that because, when they get into college, they're just, it was supposed to be designed as a place where you could talk about different ideas and people could come in and speak about this and the other, and the student would be able to hear both sides and make up their own mind, like you just said at the beginning of the show, that we would, don't take our word for it, go look it up yourself.
Yeah, and as an intellectual, you would think that you would welcome that. If you think that your ideas are the best and everyone should agree with them or whatever, you should be able to back that up in a debate or in a if some conservative comes and speaks, you should maybe get another speech from someone on the left to go and rebut what they said. Don't just
well, and they do. I mean, they do. There's it's probably 10 or 15 to 1 on who's invited to campuses for different things. But at the same time, I
think
agree with
probably too a part of that is more left-leaning people are willing to do that just because of what we talked about with people getting shouted down and stuff.
Yeah, it's much easier if you're a speaker on the left.
Yeah, and there was a calculated, plan to, infiltrate these institutions. You talk about education, government, and the media and entertainment. Majority of the people that are in these institutions and these mountains, I guess I call them. They are liberal people, and people that are conservative. I think we talked about this before, way back, that it's like just we want to just live at peace. We want to do what we need to do, go to work, pay our taxes. Do what we want to do, and not have somebody cramming their voice, their opinions down our throat. Just leave us alone. So they're not as engaged as they should be. Where the liberals and the left are, and they did have this plan, and they've been really good at carrying out their plan.
I read an article about it that said that people who are of the left-wing persuasion or they're kind of wired that way or whatever are more likely to go into those fields because they are wired that way. People who are kind of wired more conservative aren't as interested in getting into the arts or academia or the kind of things that we talk about that are these left-wing bastions. It's maybe it's now it's you're kind of forced out if you're a conservative or whatever. Some people say, I don't want to provoke anything, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that conservative people, like you said, like they just want to do their own thing. And
yeah, that's true. So, but at the same time, you have to be engaged and see what's going on, because it can very easily, this becomes a slippery slope, just like on the college campuses. Pretty soon we find ourselves with, well, they're not allowing conservative speakers. Anytime there's a conservative speaker that is invited, I mean, there was out in Berkeley, California, there was riots. They were smashing windows and going crazy because what was his name, Yiannopoulos or whatever, was invited to speak out there, or Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter was attacked on stage when she went out. Um, so you get to this point where you say this is ridiculous. These people won't even let the conservatives speak, and pretty soon we quit trying and we quit trying to engage, and then it's nothing but one side that these kids are exposed to,
Yeah, it's
and
brainwashed and
and then
it's
they come out into the
propaganda.
world, and this is what we're going through right now, where you look at how fast and how far the Democrat Party has shifted to the extreme left just in the last couple years.
Mhm.
When Obama was elected, he said marriage is between a man and a woman. That was his position.
Hillary Clinton
And
too. I think she said
Hillary
the same
Clinton
thing.
said the same thing.
And
Exactly right.
abortion safe, legal, and rare.
That's right. That's right. And now, just a few years later, not only do we have gay marriage, that's not a topic that I'm debating right now, but I'm just saying not only do we have gay marriage, but now the transgender movement has taken on a whole life of its own. Boys are allowed to shower with girls in some schools. I mean, we can list a whole, uh, a whole encyclopedia of the consequences for this transgender and problem that's gripping our country right now. Um, Not to mention, um, you've got gender identity kids are going through all kinds of gender identity crises. This has just happened over the last couple years, and then you take the abortion issue, and we've gone from safe, legal, and rare to right up
Infanticide.
past the point of birth.
Yeah.
So you know conservatives have been kind of laid back, and they said, well, I just want to do my thing. I want to be left alone. And the left is unfortunately in control of much of the cultural drivers in our society.
Mhm.
And we see, once we just take our hands off the wheel, it's like having your car out of alignment, and the thing pulls immediately to the left. If the Republicans and the conservatives aren't there as a governor and a pushback against this, you can see how far it goes and how fast it goes.
Yeah.
Mhm. But the frustrating part for being a Republican and a conservative since we've been voting, is like your quote. They go to Washington and they do nothing.
Mhm.
It's sad. And then we have this president, Donald Trump, who came and is hopefully trying to give the Republican Party a backbone so they can stand up to these people and their constant barrage of, you know, uh, this is my way or no way, highway. And we're going so far to the left and extremes, and it just call names, and he comes back at them, and the Republicans, they need to remember people are tired of what is going on the left. That's why we elected you, but you need to do something. You don't just sit there and get entrenched in this deep state, no, we can't do this because this is the way we've always done it, or you got to go through this guy and that guy, and
Yeah.
that's the frustrating part of it. So
Yeah, I
um,
mean, it is very. I mean, we talked about that in the last episode we did about the French army and the
Yeah.
World War II. How they just keep sitting there and
Yeah.
well, we need to defend this area, and they
right, get on the offensive. That's what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I just
but
watched that
being on
clip
the
of
offensive doesn't necessarily mean being offensive. I don't think.
no,
And that's the problem that I have. We've had our discussions about Donald Trump, and um, I think we can all agree that there are degrees of Trump. Some of the things he's done, we can all agree are good, and I think some of the things he's done, we can all agree are bad. But I think I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say because I mean it's true what you say. Like he definitely is fighting back. I mean
And then
that's
part
kind
of
of
it is his
his.
personality, and you already know now. I don't really, I don't like Ocasio Cortez,
Mhm.
myself, and she's got her own personality too. So
Oh
does
yeah,
that
I mean
Omar, and they're
she's
in
the
your
Trump of the
face.
left for sure.
They're in your face, and that's Donald Trump. That's his personality, and some of the things that he said that they're so triggered by or upset in is something maybe that he would say at a rally, which is a
Mhm.
totally different environment than
Or on
just
Twitter,
presidential and on and the foreign affairs or whatever. He's meeting with dignitaries.
Yeah.
He's
Well, that's the thing is it is kind of a two-edged sword sometimes because he may say something that is it makes sense what he's saying, and there's a lot of truth to what he says, but the way he says it makes a lot of people cringe that are his supporters. Me,
Mhm.
myself, I can speak for myself as all, but sometimes he'll say something in such a way that I kind of cringe the way he says it, but what he said was right and what he said was true.
Yeah.
He just doesn't sugarcoat it. He just lays it out there, and you know I still think I would rather have him say what he's saying, even though I don't like the way he says it. I would rather have it said. I would rather have it out there. And I, and you look at the way these liberals are triggered by him. I almost think that it's that he's just playing with them. That he's just doing his best to tick them off
yeah,
because
he's a master at
they
that.
can't.
Well, I mean, he is a
How
very
to get under their
good public
skin.
speaker, and he knows how to work a crowd for
He
sure.
does.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, I think a lot of the things that get him in trouble, quote unquote, with the media, is things that he
Well,
says at rallies and when he's just playing to the base or whatever.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but just for an example, who is this John Legend's wife? She's some model or something that had her at this retreat,
Democrat
and they were
retreat.
all like in awe. And Adam Schiff taking a selfie, with them in the background and the whole
They
nine
were
yards, like,
fawning over
like
them.
it's a concert, ooh, right? So she's there and they're asking her questions, and it's part of this little part of their retreat where they had this session with her and him, Legend, and she's just saying how
let me stop you. It's a Democrat retreat for politicians, Democrat politicians from Congress, and they're listening to and taking advice from and listening to policy suggestions from a singer and a model. Not to take anything away from that. I mean, there's smart people in every but these are your elected Democrat leaders, and they're sitting there with John Legend and Christy Teigen like they're delivering the word from on high. It just strikes me
Maybe they're
as
just listening to their constituents. I don't know.
yeah. But anyway,
whatever.
I mean, they somebody else made the point. Well, Republicans had celebrities come in, blah blah blah, whatever. But the making that she was just like Madeline Kahn, where it's like flames,
Yes,
flames
so-
arise. So like, oh my gosh, she says, I just can't go through a day where I don't feel so
she has to go to counseling.
Yeah,
she said because
she
she's
just
always angry.
angry. She cannot help herself. She just can't stand it. I mean, and that's just so sad. Yeah, when we had Obama for 8 years, I wasn't very happy, but I didn't, want to slip my wrists or have to go to a counselor, or have medication. It's just crazy. These people just are so.
Well, that's another tangent that you could go down. The how in America now there's I heard something the other day, and they were talking about teenagers or whatever, and they said one in three teenagers, I think, will have some mental disorder. Whether it's depression or anxiety or I guess the ADHD or some kind of disorder that they have. And there was another guy that was talking about it, and he was saying, when he's probably a little bit older than me, so in late 30s, early 40s age.
Right.
And he was saying when I was in school, they probably would have diagnosed me with what is called attention deficit hyperactive disorder or whatever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a big thing back then, so they didn't stick him on some meds or whatever. And
Right.
he was basically saying like that's just kids being kids.
Yeah.
Which I agree with to an extent, but it's hard to, I mean, because there are some people definitely that have some sort of chemical imbalance or whatever, and they can't,
Sure.
like my daughter had a condition with her heart, and it would just speed up and speed up, speed up, and she couldn't do anything to kind of slow her heart rate down.
Right.
So I'm sure there's the equivalent of people that have that mentally, they get depressed and they just keep spiraling, and they can't get out of it. Whereas a person with a normal, cocktail of chemicals in their head would be able to look at things logically and okay, it's not as bad
So
as I think.
maybe she doesn't have all the chemicals in her brain. In
No,
her cocktail, whatever. That's why she's so upset. But there just seems to be, I mean, they've called it, they got a name for it, Trump derangement syndrome. And it does affect a lot of people. They just, like you gave the example, I think, or told us a story about the people screaming, this like screaming at the sky,
Well, yeah, they had that thing in New York, didn't they?
that they just don't know how to handle it. And I think a lot of it, and again, we probably shouldn't go all the way off on these tangents, but it has a lot to do with just the electronics and just the internet and everything's instant, and it's all about me because I'm taking all selfies, and how is it affecting me, and nobody's really looking at the big picture, and putting themselves in the right order, or your priorities of, you look out for yourself, but it's not all about you, and I think that a lot of it has to do with that. And unfortunately in our society, we have that. And then my big soapbox, and I guess I need to be talking to myself a lot, is where's the church? What is the church doing? Church isn't really engaged in the culture, or they're trying to be,
or like they're too engaged in the culture.
Yeah, they're like the too much light. There's no difference,
Well, that's like I saw there was the thing about. I mean, it's been a month or 2 months maybe, but the Methodist Church had their vote on, whether they would allow homosexual pastors.
Right.
And was it joining the church? I can't remember if joining the church. I know pastors was on there.
Yeah.
I can't remember if joining the church.
Well, they voted it down, and then too many people started screaming, and they changed their minds. Right?
No, I don't
think they changed their mind. There's a lot of people that are leaving the church.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
well, and did you know why that didn't pass?
Because there's a lot of people, and like there's an African branch of
That's it. There's one
church,
Zimbabwe and different places in Africa.
Woke.
They absolutely were against that, and that's the only reason it didn't pass. The vote, the people that voted in the United States, it was overwhelming to go that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that, if you were a homosexual person, you would be upset if you were excluded from something, but I mean the basic tenets of this club, essentially that you're joining are from the Bible, and the Bible wasn't too keen on homosexuality. And I don't want to say, like that's the other thing with Republicans and Democrats or whatever, where Republicans are all racist and Christians are all anti, like they have the whole big thing with Chick-fil-A or whatever.
Right.
Christians are all anti-LGBTQP, whatever.
Every time they do that, Chick-fil-A, ching, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. They keep making more and more money.
Yeah. Well, did you hear that they voted in some town or whatever to
San
put up?
Antonio, take them out of the airport.
No, that Chick-fil-A is staying, but this town or whatever voted that they're going to put up rainbow flags and whatever the flag is for the transgender people. It's like a blue and white flag. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're going to hang them up, like to kind of thumb it in the nose of Chick-fil-A. Like,
yeah, they'll probably say,
Chick-fil-A
hey,
doesn't care. Like,
no, they say, hey, come in here. You got some greenbacks. Come in here and buy some of these good chicken sandwiches. We don't card you at the door.
I mean, when the Pulse shooting happened,
a lesbian or a homosexual. Come
on.
When
the Pulse shooting happened, and it was a gay club that got shot up. They opened on Sunday, which they never do, to give food.
And they gave away the food.
Yeah, to the workers and
the people affected.
Affected
by it, people. Yeah. But they hate gay people.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like that's the thing that people need to realize. Where all Republicans aren't racist, and all I mean, good Christians. I mean, the thing was, you hate the sin, but not the sinner, right? Like,
right. That's right.
Right, and that's.
But I don't want to get into
much
into the.
Yeah, both parties, I guess, to an extent, but more so the Democrats are into the and anybody that just talks about groups. You want to put them in a group. You want to segregate them. Okay, I'm gay, so I have my rainbow flag, and I'm transgender, so I have my blue and white flag. And then, why do you need a flag? Why do you need to do that? You're an American. You're a person.
But see, that was part of the strategy that the Democrats employed going back probably somewhere in the mid 60s, late 60s. They began this movement of identity politics, and it has worked tremendously well because they put people into these groups, and then they say, and the Republicans hate you. You're part of this victim group. You've been trod on, the man is against you, and the man is a Republican, and it's it's divide and conquer. Basically, it's it's in Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's divide and conquer, and that's the strategy that they have been using. And as cynical as that sounds, and people probably won't even believe that, but that is the absolute truth. That's a strategy that they have used, and they've used very effectively. Republicans have been kind of just like we've said, they're just kind of on the sidelines.
That's like this book that I had, The Waking the Sleeping Giant. It's like the liberals are the 2-year-old, and the conservatives, for the most part, are the adults in the room. And you act a certain way if you're an adult. And you don't act like a child, but the child, when he screams the loudest, people are like, oh, shush, give that kid what he wants so he quits yelling and screaming. That's kind of the way.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's how a lot of people view Donald Trump, too.
Do you think anybody's giving him what he wants?
No, they're definitely not giving what he wants. But, as far as the yelling and screaming. And
well, it's just like if he may be acting a little bit like that, I agree. But in this analogy, because the liberals aren't, it's just like Linda said, if the liberals are acting like 2-year-olds and they're screaming and carrying on, and then Donald Trump starts to scream and carry on, the 2-year-olds aren't going to help him out. The 2-year-olds think for him, right? So it doesn't really translate the same way.
And see, when they make those little baby balloons, Trump, and they carry him in their parade, who's the real baby?
Well,
who's the baby? They're there with their little baby balloon and their baby. And look who's talking.
Two.
Look in the mirror.
But we're kind of...
Yeah, we went off on a big tangent.
No, I mean, it's fine to go off on tangents, I think. I mean, because that's what this is, right? I mean, it's
kind of related to each other.
Right?
Right. Right.
I mean, you're called Link Up Linda. That's how you have conversations. I mean,
That's
I'm the
right.
same way. So
Yeah, that's a curse you inherited from
yeah,
her.
that's why my wife hates it. Like
Yeah.
I come home to tell her a story, and I have to, give her the backstory to it, and then all these side things that happened, and she yells at me. Just tell me what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe that's what I need to do is just yell at mom.
mhm.
Tell me what happened. Uh, so, so what, you know, I guess getting back to our original premise for today's show was, you know, wh- what is it that you believe? If I asked you, Kyle, why are you a conservative? For many years, you didn't know what you.
Yeah, I think I was more, middle of the road. I mean, I could see, and I'm still kind of that way a little bit. I mean, I'm
Sure,
more
and that's
conservative
fine.
on certain issues than on others.
Right.
Um, but
There's nothing wrong with trying to see the other point of view.
yeah, I think, you know, back maybe at the beginning of the 20th century, Republican meant conservative, and maybe not even at the beginning of the 20th century, probably starting about the time of FDR, is where it started changing. But where Republican meant conservative and Democrat meant liberal. But now I think there's been a lot of bleeding bleeding through on the lines. Like there are plenty of liberal Republicans, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some conservative Democrats.
Well, sure.
To me, the conservative viewpoint is small government and
Yes.
just let everybody be more, I guess, libertarian is what they
Yeah.
would be now, considered now. um, because we had a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate and a Republican senator, and the deficit didn't go down. We maybe we cut spending on certain things, and um, but we didn't slash this $20 trillion deficit that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's plenty of Republicans that like big government.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then the priorities are, for the most part, the military. You got to have a strong military, and that's what the Republicans are, for the most part, supportive of. Where the Democrats are not; they're more social stuff and all of their spending for social things.
Well, a lot of the EPA and stuff that was when um, Bush, George W. Bush was president, I think.
No, the EPA was before that.
Well, I
Yeah.
know, but I mean, as far as adding into a lot of the regulations and stuff that Trump has, talked about, he's gotten rid of.
Yeah.
A lot of those
I
were
mean,
implemented
those.
when a Republican was in
Yeah.
office.
Yeah. Some of them.
And I think it was way back almost to Nixon. It was in '72 or something like
Yeah,
that.
Nixon was the one that did the EPA.
Yeah, because there was issues, that had to be taken care of. I think the EPA got power hungry, and they were stepping their bunch of officials, and they just, were an agency that was just going too far, and they probably had, a lot of influence from politicians that said, well, we need to do this, and we need so it's all about following the money. I'm sure, why we should have this kind of what do you call it, regulation or that regulation, or do away with this or not. But I mean, freeing up some of that just horrible red tape that they had, that they were punishing just landowners, their own private property, overstepping their bounds there. That's some of the stuff that Donald Trump is helping to free up some of that. So,
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the 20th century, the tax code was like 7 pages long, and
Yeah.
now it's like 40,000 pages long. So I think that's the to me, that's what separates a conservative from a liberal person.
Just the size of government type thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's your values or whatever too.
Yeah.
Like a conservative is more, the traditional kind of person, whereas a liberal is a more progressive.
And really, if you think about it, though, I know the media hypes, right? So you hear all these things that the news puts out, and Fox has their way of putting things, and so does MSNBC and CNN, which is supposed to be the middle of the road, which is not. I don't think there's that many big mouth people out there that are so crazy with their views, from conservative to the crazy kind of liberal talk that they got now.
Well,
but
that's
they just
that's the
focus
conservative,
on,
more
it's like they
traditional.
take their magnifying glass and go down, so far, so it looks like this huge number of people, and we've seen that just with what was that, Beto O'Rourke? There he is, with less than 100 people in the room, and they made it look thousands of people there next to him.
Yeah.
They can do that. They manipulate that on the news. So I don't know that there's that many people that are that crazy with their views.
Well, Bernie
They
got
make it sound like
$6 million or something in his first day announcing his campaign.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of people out there that.
There are, but you got a lot of wealthy, vocal liberals. The George Soroses and the
and they say
I think the majority of his votes were like the average was like $20. I think
$20.
Yeah, and there are. There's a lot of young people that are drawn to that socialism message.
Well, I wish they would have a debate.
Oh, they will
with him and a person that is, it's going to be Donald Trump, I guess, but somebody that would debate him on the merits of his Democrat socialist views and get down to what do you say about Venezuela? Just that example. What happened there, Bernie? Why didn't your policies work? Now England, I just saw a headline that their healthcare system is collapsing.
Well, yeah,
England
definitely will.
Yeah. So how can he say that? And then I don't have any respect for the man because he's a hypocrite. He says, "So I'm for the poor man. I'm for this one. I'm rich. Why don't you give more of your taxes? Why do you shelter your taxes, Bernie? Why do you have 6 houses?" You could use the argument that they use all the time about conservatives and people that are business people, wealthy, goes both ways.
It really does.
So what are your guys' view on what a conservative and a liberal or a Republican and a Democrat are?
Well, to me, in a lot of ways, it's about looking at the consequences of your actions. So it's easy to say you should raise the minimum wage to $15. It says, "Hey, you really get it. You're awesome. You're fantastic." But what's going to happen when you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour? There's going to be a lot of those people aren't going to have any jobs anymore. Ones that were working for minimum wage, or they're not going to have any job.
Yeah.
There's going to be unemployment is going to, and what happens when unemployment goes up is the crime rate goes up, especially in the inner cities, which are one of the places where this $15 minimum wage is being targeted. You're going to have people that had a job, felt good about themselves, they're making money, and they're even though they're not getting rich, they have a job, they're contributing to society, they're making money, they're able to buy some of the things they want. Now all of a sudden, under the guise of being compassionate, we're going to raise them wage to $15, and now many of those don't have jobs. Many of them don't feel like a contributing member of society. Many of them are upset. Many of them are whatever, and pretty soon the crime rate starts to go because the old idle hands of the devil's playground kind of.
Mhm.
So
why don't you tell us why, if someone raises the minimum wage, I think it's the national is what, 7.25 right now,
7.25, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So if someone were to raise it to 15, tell us why people
All
would
right.
lose their job. Why
Well,
wouldn't they just make more money?
We'll take an example. Most of those jobs are in food service, or a lot anyway. Most of say.
Well, you own a business. You've owned a business for, I mean, my whole life.
Sure.
So use yourself. What?
Well, I don't pay minimum wage though. I pay higher than minimum, but I pay based on what the market will bear, because I got to get people that have a little bit of skill usually, and in order to get somebody with a little bit of skill, you've got to pay more for it. Yeah.
So if you have someone with a lot of skill, you don't pay him the same as the guy that you just hired to sweep up the yard. That's
exactly
what you're saying.
Exactly.
So what if someone made you pay them the same?
Well,
so if you had to pay the guy you just hired the amount that
right.
you're paying the good carpenter that's done it for 20 years.
Well, the good carpenter is probably going to be upset, or he's going to expect it raise. I need $1 raise. My costs are going to go up. So what am I going to do? I have a choice. My costs
just because the minimum wage goes up doesn't make people buy more houses or
and not only buy more, but they'd have to pay more.
Yeah.
That, and to get back to the McDonald's employee, he's flipping a hamburger, or he's taking an order, or he's doing whatever at McDonald's at 7.25. A Happy Meal, or not a Happy Meal, but a Big Mac meal, $6 or $7 for Big Mac fries and a Coke, right? If you all of a sudden doubled costs in your salary or in your wages, if that business owner had to double their costs in their employment, their wages that they're paying out, are they still going to be able to sell a Big Mac meal for $6 or $7?
No,
they're not.
It's just business sense,
right.
And capitalism, which they are totally against.
But what the liberals will say is, he makes so much money, he can just take it out of his pocket and he can pay the difference, and it won't affect anybody. It would just be great for these employees. Well, then again, see, you're looking at to own a McDonald's franchise, you have to come in with $1,000 cash, and you have to finance about $1 million on average, and then it takes a certain number of years, 4 or 5 years. And then at that point, the owner is going to make about $1,000 restaurant. That's just averages how that works. So if that owner now has to this restaurant, I'm going to make $50,000 this restaurant. Do they have the same incentive to save up that initial $100,000 in cash and go and mortgage themselves the same incentive? The answer obviously is no. So they're not going to open as many restaurants, and they're not going to hire as or they're going those little screens. Again, for whatever reason, the liberals tend to not a hard tend to. It's that thing called virtue signaling. We're for the little guy. We want the wage from $7.50 an hour to $15 an hour because we care about. But look, any idiot, anybody with a modicum of sense can look and see, okay, well, what's going to be the outcome if we do that? Not just the happy feel good thing of, yay, we're raising the minimum wage. What happens 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? What trajectory that decision has put business on, those employees on, so on and so forth. So to me, it's that looking beyond just this feel good phrase. I want this guy, everybody $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, big picture versus just small sighted, instant gratification kind of a thing.
Right.
And that bothers me too, that all politicians really do just blow smoke. They just blow hot air.
Well,
they just
that's the
things.
thing where they're talking about, a minimum wage isn't a living wage. You can't, if you make $7 an hour, you
then
can't
get another
probably-
job.
Well,
get some more education.
Is, that's not a job for that person.
Right.
A minimum wage job is not for, a single mother with 4 kids.
Right. It's for somebody that's going to school or a young
a high school kid or person who retired from some other profession, and that's what a minimum wage job is for, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. And what I was driving at, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, unless you work at McDonald's and you get into management like that, or
but you're not making minimum wage at that point.
No, you're not. So you just that's a starting point. That's an entry level position where you get experience and training, and then you can move on. If you're just satisfied with staying right there, then that's your own stupid fault.
Well, what I was saying when I was kind of driving at when I was asking Dad about his business, if you were forced to pay this new guy off the street the same amount that you're paying this experienced guy, you just wouldn't hire the guy off the street.
Right.
So that guy would never get the experience to get up to be the experience of the guy that's making $25, $30 an hour.
Good point.
So if you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, then it doesn't automatically make everyone, like, I guess this one person that's making $15 an hour now may have more money in his pocket, but it doesn't, the amount of wealth that is available, isn't doubled by doubling the minimum wage. So if you own a business where you had 10 people making $7 an hour, now you can only have 5 people making $15 an hour.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's just an arbitrary thing. Okay, let's pick $15 an hour out of the what base. Where does that come from?
Well, they say that's what you need to survive on. As a.
But again, it's not based on anything in reality. It's you have to have what you produce in American business, and the average employee the average employee has to generate enough money in what he does by Tuesday afternoon to pay his salary for the week. What he works Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that's the money that the business then earns off of that employee to pay the lights, pay the overhead, pay the insurance, pay the taxes, pay the material costs, whatever, whether it's hamburger, 2x4s. That's just the way the system works. That employee generates money for that business, and in return, that employee gets some of that money that it generates. In the United States, the average is by Tuesday afternoon, the well-run business, the employee should have generated enough to pay his salary. So if that then is doubled, and now we're talking about Thursday afternoon before he's paid for himself, then the business only has left what he generates Friday, and he still has to pay his taxes, insurance, light, mortgage on materials. Everything that goes into running that business then has to be paid on one day versus 3 days. It's just not going to work, So it's an arbitrary thing. Challenge anybody that's listening. You have somebody in your life that is advocating for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Ask them this question. Just say, well, Well, two questions. Number one, why just $15? Those poor people that work hard, and they are the hard side, don't you think they would be better off at $20 an hour, or 25 or 30? I mean, why stop at 15? Why don't we give them $50 an hour? Can you imagine all that money that they would have at $50 an hour? They could then put it into the society. They could buy things. They could, by this same logic that they're giving you this $15 an hour. Why stop at $15 an hour? Why not 60, 70, 100? We're just picking a number out of the air anyway. So why not? Why does your number at $15 an hour? And then the second question is, if we did raise it to $15 an hour, and you talk, and that their big argument is, well, these people are going to infuse it into society. It's going to help everybody out. Well, that may be true, but what happens to the price of the goods at that store? If it's a shoe store, you can't buy a $30 pair of shoes anymore. Your shoes are going to be $60. You can't buy a $7 hamburger. It's going to be $15 hamburger. And that person who you think you're helping is really not going to have any money than they do now in terms of what they can purchase. Because by just looking at this thing for a few minutes, you can see that if you artificially raise, it's going to have to raise the cost of goods and services. There's no way around it.
Right, and they don't look at it that way. That was your argument.
They just think the business owner.
Yeah. Either you're going to have to double it, or that person that's making double the money now needs to be able to do the work of two people.
Exactly, and that's going to happen in many because that business is not going to be able to support two people at 15, but maybe one at 15, where it had two before.
Right, and
so
you're talking about that. You said thinking the whole thing through to the end instead of just seeing just the tiny bit of the future here that you're going to make somebody feel good, or I'm going to feel good because I did for you, and I get credit for it.
Right. But see, that to me is the difference. And what happens is that the liberal that says, we want to give you, he's great, he's fantastic, we're going to vote for him, but they don't look at what's going to happen a couple years down the road when it is way high and everything else. The conservative who says, no, this is a bad idea and here's
right.
But he's demonized for being uncaring, greedy.
Right, and see, even if
racist.
That's what we see when we looked at those. We just did a little bit of research looking at like forums and stuff of what people thought of, Republicans versus Democrats, and a majority of it was that Republicans don't care about poor people.
Because it's propaganda. It's propaganda that's been pushed on them from the get-go as soon as they entered school. And that's all they hear on the news. And there's not another Republican or conservative that can articulate that they'll even listen to, because they get out there and then, you like Ben Shapiro and Ann Coulter sometimes, when she has some things to say, Malkin, they don't listen to them. And I was like listening to a little bit of Candace Owens. I mean, man, she made Jerry Nadler just go,
look like
I guess I better just shut my mouth, right?
Did you see that, Kyle?
Yeah, I saw it.
Did you hear what happened with that clip?
No.
It was the number record for most downloaded clips from C-SPAN, of congressional hearings or whatever. And Facebook pulled it down.
Oh, wow.
Because so many people were looking at it. And Facebook
the total, clip, she said he just pulled this little bit off of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so she would be the whole thing. The whole thing.
And Matt said, don't call somebody stupid. She said, I wasn't calling it. He didn't even listen to her.
Yeah.
And that's what she said. You weren't listening to her. And then he just folded his hands and shut his mouth. But if you had somebody that that's the point. And then if you want to make yourself heard, you get passionate like me, you get loud, you get saying things maybe that, people, oh, well, listen to that tone of voice and blah, blah, blah.
Donald Trumpish.
It's like, because you can't, they're not listening to you.
Right. It's frustrating.
And it's the same way at school. The teacher walks out of the room and then I'm there or the other little student teacher's there and they just, it's a signal. Okay, go ahead. And then one teacher told me, why? Because they know you're not mean tough enough. So
you must have changed a lot since I was a child.
I was going to say, are we talking about you? Okay.
That's what they said. You're not mean enough. You're not tough enough.
I was always more scared of you than Dad.
with good reason, I'm sure. But I guess, get back to the, in a nutshell, I think that's it. I think that to me, and then what always happens is, just like we were just saying, when a Republican or a conservative stands up and says, minimum wage is a bad idea, here's why. Well, the headline says, so-and-so Republican is against so-and-so Republican is against hardworking minimum wage employees. It's just that Republicans hate people of color because the majority of people earning those wages are people of color. So they twist it on its head. People believe the crap.
Because people are lazy.
But
they don't check it out.
I don't know if it's lazy. Like we were
they're
talking
doing
about
too
before.
many other things, and they got their life to live, and they just easier just to sit there and listen to what so and so said, not check it out yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think the majority of Americans are kind-hearted people and are cognizant of the fact that there are poor people and there are
Sure.
And if you really knew the truth about Donald Trump and the real Donald Trump and how kind a person he is, giving a person, see, he probably doesn't want that out. He likes the persona of, who he is, tough guy, but he really is a caring person. And the numbers of monies that he's given away is phenomenal, and you just think about him now giving away his salary. His salary has been given. He has not taken a dime since he entered office. And I don't know when they pay him.
Quarterly.
But he's given his money away to different, organizations. I didn't see Obama doing that. I didn't see Clinton doing that. I didn't see Bush. I didn't see any of them.
Last one to do that was John F. He did. He gave his, at that time, the presidential salary was $200,000 a year to the Boy Scouts.
Okay. So
what is it now?
400,000 or 450.
So I mean, he's giving it away,
I mean, there
saving
is,
it,
this idea that Trump is the, me and Dad talked about this before. Like, I don't think that Trump actually likes to fire people. He has this idea, that everybody's built up. You're fired, like the show or whatever. But he doesn't ever fire anybody. He just badgers them until they quit or resign or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think he likes that.
Yeah. But you were saying something, Kyle. Were you saying something? I think I interrupted your thought there.
Oh, well, I've lost it now. I don't remember what I was.
You've lost. Well, that train has left, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
go ahead.
We're so polite.
Yes.
No, what I was saying before was I think that the majority of Americans do, care about people and, want people to do well. And, I mean, the whole idea of the American dream is you come over here, a poor immigrant, and then you work your way up and you own a business. And, by the end of your life or whatever, you're the CEO of McDonald's or whatever it is. So it kind of, the liberal democratic stuff that they promote kind of plays to that idea of Americans,
right.
I make $20 an hour, so you know, like it would be good, you know, for that person to make more money. You know, that would help that person. You know,
Sure.
so you know, you don't think about, like you said, you don't think about the long-term consequences of it. You just say, oh yeah, I mean, it would be good. You know, like a thing with the immigrants and stuff from Latin and South America. You
Yeah.
know, we've talked about that before. You know, like if we were those people, we would probably be trying to do the same thing. You know, like
Sure.
who wants to stay in Honduras? You know, like there's
Right.
America. They have a minimum wage there. You know,
Yeah.
there's not the drug cartel doesn't own the town that I live in. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I could totally understand, and I think that's what most Americans think when they think about these immigrants or whatever. Like we should help these people, and you know, but you also have to
But
think about
I know they're talking about, well, they made suggestions that Trump should go and talk to these government officials down in those countries and try to negotiate things. Got the Secretary of State down there, but it's more of a prohibitive thing. You do not need to be sending or allowing these people. But if the Democrats and the liberals are so wanting to help, and that's the argument they make. They say, okay, well, these coyotes take you across, they'll dump you off. You find these dead bodies in Texas all over the place. These ranchers are digging up bodies, because they just put them out there with a little bottle of water and expect them to try to get to somewhere.
yeah.
They don't care about them. They got their money, right? So that's what they want. They want these climbing over the fence and stuff like that. Why don't you send money? And I know, he's talking about, well, we're going to take money. We're not going to send money down there because it's corrupt and they don't use it to help them. But there's got to be a way to, to negotiate with them and just help the people where they're at, because, they probably don't really want to leave their country. They just feel like they're forced out of their country, or, some of them have probably been paid by people to leave and be
I
in
don't know.
these.
I don't think that. I mean, like if you're living in El Salvador, as you know, as of course they're the higher ups there have pretty good lives, I'm sure. But I mean, if you're the equivalent of a peasant in Honduras or El Salvador or Guatemala or whatever, I don't think anybody would need to pay you to leave. I would think that you would want to
No,
leave.
but I mean,
I mean,
I'm talking. I
not
guess
that
I'm
you
being
hate your country or
cynical
whatever, but just
about
for
the people that are there that do take advantage of these. They might say, hey, we're getting this big caravan together. We're going to try to storm the gate kind of thing, and there's probably money being funneled around that we don't even know about, through these, the George Soroses that are out there. His money and his fingers are in everything, and people could say, oh, that's conspiracy theory. But I'm sure that some of that does go.
But see, the thing of it is, and going to school and hearts, and the Democrats take advantage of this position. But the point of it is, there's poor people all over the earth. There's billions of poor people. We can't take them just because they would want the United States for better life. I can appreciate the fact that they would want to better themselves. I can appreciate that. But if they really, really want to do that, then they need to do it through the legal channel and try and do it that way. But we can't just let everybody in the country, or else there's going to be 300 million more people.
No, that's what I was saying. The Republicans are saying, well, think about, what happens in the future with this.
Exactly.
And whereas the majority of Americans just look at it right now, like,
Right.
there's a starving person right there. Why can't we bring that person in? And like you said,
Right.
I mean, there's billions of starving people everywhere. And
Yeah, and if they would do some real investigative reporting and get cameras down there and show the 100,000s of people coming in every month and what it looks like, that's the whole frustrating thing too, is like the liberals, the Democrats have the media in pocket. That's their secret weapon, that they work with, it's on their side. So Republicans, the conservatives, have that going against them. They don't have that machine behind them to get the truth out. And that's what I want. Give me the truth. I don't want to borrow your friends, give me the facts, but
Yeah.
show me and then educate me.
And I think
I
that's what the
hate that
Republicans that we elected should do. You know,
Yeah.
like we have.
and that they tell the truth about the Republican. Who was the party of the abolition? Who did not want, to have segregated school, Jim Crow laws? They were
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Republicans. It was all Democrats, every single one of them, and they have changed their.
That's right.
They haven't, and that frustrates me to no end too.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
But
I think
that's what I said back by Donald Trump. Hopefully, he can, convince enough. Mark Meadows, thank God, our Carolina has been on the news a lot, and him and Jim Jordan, few of the Republicans that have a backbone that'll stand up for what they believe in. Scalise, those people that are in
Yeah,
Congress.
Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, not the ones that are just, elect me, and then give props to is Lindsey Graham. I didn't have a whole lot of nice things to say for him, but hey,
He stood up.
He's
lately.
turned it on.
if you had enough people like that in Congress that were Republicans, you could get something done.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we talked about. When they shut the government down or whatever over
Right.
the border wall funding. Why weren't Donald Trump or any of the Republican people? Why didn't you just go down to the border and sit there with a camera, like you said, and look, this is what's happening. You just kind of cede that to the media, and
Right.
like you said. I mean, I don't know if they're paid off or whatever, but I mean they definitely do lean that way. Whether it's
I mean they're not down there covering. They're not. They don't want any of that out.
No.
And
and that's the thing too, is they've been caught now. They preached this collusion thing for 2 years. I mean, it was the evidence was about to break any day. They've seen the evidence. It's going to be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on and on and on and on. And then the Mueller report comes out, and there's no collusion and no obstruction. And they,
now
they've
it's
been
just because the
AG was after that. I know what they're saying, but the AG didn't do the report. Mueller
No, I know, but they're saying that he got the report, and there was something on Facebook or whatever where I think it was the New York Times did it. I don't know if it was a editorial or not, but it was a little thing, like a little picture they had of him redacting everything from the Mueller report or what that didn't show.
Well, let me ask you a question. They said that. Well, we don't even trust him. His summary that he's telling the truth. Well, if you were Mueller and you spent $25-30 million on this thing for 2 years, and you send it to the AG, if the AG did not represent your piece of correctly, would you not say something?
Yeah, well, he did when the BuzzFeed article came out.
Yeah,
and
but
they said it was one way. I mean, he came out and said, "No, that's not true." Like he's not shy about
not
saying
at all.
what.
Not at all. So if Barr was misrepresenting do you not think Mueller or somebody on his team say, he's not telling you the truth?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, if you listen to Hannity every night, heads are and I'm there's going to be some kind of somebody's going to turn up, and it's going to it's just going to follow this trail.
Well, I hope so. I hope people
because this. Well, do you think that's the right thing? I mean, I get it from a lawful kind of point of view that you should, but we do this now, and they find whatever, or maybe we spend another $3 billion or whatever, and he doesn't find anything.
Yeah, but don't you think
then when the next Democrat gets in office, well, we need to investigate Barr, and we're going to spend another, god awful amount of
That's not
money
what
to.
that's not what Congress is supposed to be up there for. Yeah, oversight. Yeah, but this is
here's-
over.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, though, you have there the abuse of power that
Yes.
happened in the echelons of the FBI and the Justice Department and the CIA is so egregious that there has to be accountability, or else people are going to continue to do this.
But I mean, all
You-
those people that, McCabe and what was his name?
Peter Strzok,
Strzok
and
and-
Comey, and
Yeah, they've all been fired and lost their retirement, right?
yeah, but that's not enough. This is literally, and maybe we'll do a whole show on this at some point. This was literally a soft coup attempt. They were trying to overthrow the president of the States. There's no other way to say that. That has to be punished. In some countries, they and they would be.
Yeah.
Well, we missed. You broke up there. I couldn't hear what you said.
I said in other countries, if
Apparently, God doesn't want to hear this because you keep breaking up right when you say some people in other countries.
okay, let me try it one more time. In other countries, if this happened, many other countries, those same characters would be put up against a wall in a firing squad and shot.
Or like,
Because you cannot let this kind of thing go unpunished.
yeah,
They were trying to overthrow government, duly elected.
right.
Well, I mean, there is.
There is no other way to put it.
Well, I
Right.
mean, if you have evidence, whether it's wrong or not, well, not evidence is the right word. If you have a suspicion of something and you go looking into this suspicion and it turns out that this suspicion was ill-founded and, it wasn't what you thought it was.
Right, but that's not what occurred here.
I thought
That's
that is what occurred here.
Not at all. What occurred here?
I mean, I know they got their info, from a Clinton-funded, Oppo research, essentially.
And they lied to the FISA court, saying this was intelligence that was gathered by the FBI.
Well, no, I don't think they lied. They just left that part out, didn't they?
No, they didn't tell them it was opposition research funded by Hillary Clinton. So that right there is illegal. They spied on American citizens, no evidence at all.
And not just Donald Trump.
Not just
We're
Donald
talking
Trump.
about
Carter
private
Page,
citizens,
George
yeah.
Papa.
Mm-hmm.
They spied on these Americans to try and get into the Trump camp and find something to bring him down with. They've had a covert agent in his campaign that he was put in there. They did not tell him, they make the excuse now they were suspicious of Russian activity, and so they didn't want Russians to have any in our election. Well, they should have told Donald Trump that they were looking into this because they had suspicions. But they didn't. They spied on him illegally. And then you had the top agents worked on the Hillary Clinton investigation into her emails. The top agent writing her exoneration months before they even finished their investigation, was writing exoneration. They brushed that one under the rug, and they took these same agents, Trump, and the emails back and forth that have now been released, where they talk about, we have to have an insurance in case Trump wins. We have to get rid of him, take him down. That's what the Mueller investigation. So it goes a lot further than we have this suspicion, and then you look at the other side thing. We have not only suspicion, we have evidence that crimes were committed. So it isn't a matter of, well, one side does it, the other side does it. This makes Watergate like a speeding ticket, and it really does. You need
I lost you again there.
I think you just don't want
You said you need to look into this. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do some research
Do
on
some
that.
research.
Yeah, I should. I mean, I haven't been. I mean,
Yeah.
it was all kind of like that. Kind of drove me away for a little bit from politics. Was just
I hear you.
the
I hear you.
ridiculousness of. I mean, I get it.
And everybody was so tired of Russia, Russia, Russia.
Yeah, that's what I was tired
And
of.
and now they're still trying to Russia.
And that's
Russia.
why I'm still tired of it. So I want it to just go
Yeah.
away. You know, I get what you guys are saying. I mean, I agree that.
I mean,
you know,
and what are the Democrats going to do in the House of Representatives? Nothing. Nothing. They're going to just investigate Trump. That's all they're there for. Nothing else. We don't care about anybody in America except for Donald Trump and how to get rid of him. That's all they're, or their, crazy ideas like the Green New Deal and all that.
And none of
And
them
then
even
the
have,
well, that's the thing we were
that
talking
are on
about.
the
You know,
far left, like Ocasio and Tlaib and Omar, and they've created a vacuum, and that's all they have left to say anything. The rest of them are, we got to investigate Trump.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, I just kind of wanted it all to go away. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I get
Yeah.
what you guys are saying. But
Yeah.
I'm just.
But you should look into that. It's pretty interesting stuff. There's some really good investigative journalism that went to bring all this stuff to light.
Mm.
Yeah,
They talk about Woodward and Epstein that uncovered the Watergate scandal.
Yeah.
And how great they were because they did this investigative journalism. Nobody in the mainstream media did this kind of investigation, but several people in the more alternative media did, and they should be getting Pulitzer
Yeah,
prizes
really.
for
I
what
mean,
they've
that's what you
uncovered.
used to turn the news on. Give me the news. I want to hear the news. I don't want to hear.
Well, didn't CNN get a Pulitzer for their coverage of it or something?
Yeah. What a joke. Well, have we beaten this horse to death yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hit the required number of tangents we went on. And,
There you go. There you go. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to wrap it all up, don't believe everything you hear from us or from anybody else. Just
Sure.
do your research, look into it, and think about how things affect other things.
Right, the big picture.
Yeah.
Take it to
when you think about
out to
universal
the
health
end.
care, when you think about raising the minimum wage, or you think about unrestricted border access or whatever.
Yeah,
Exactly.
ask yourself those questions.
What does this lead to, and what are the unintended consequences, or perhaps intended consequences in some cases?
Yeah, because I mean, the country was founded by people who were really, really forward-thinking people.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, thank God.
Brilliant.
Thank
people.
God for them. I mean, we're not invested as long as we have. We just need to be engaged so we can hold on and have a country for your kids, our grandkids. That's
Their
our
kids
hearts.
and their kids.
We want. I mean, they're growing up in the greatest country in the whole world.
Yeah.
That's why everybody's trying to get in here. And we want our country to go on into the future, a long time into the future. So
I was talking to a guy, a European guy, the other day, and we were discussing kind of the U.S. system of government versus the more European parliamentary kind of system that they have. And he was saying because independents really can't do anything in the United States. I mean, the most they're going to do is take votes away from one side or the other. That's, for the vast majority of American political history. A little bit at the beginning, there was like 1,000 different parties, but as far as recent history, there's Republicans or Democrats. And, he was saying, because with the parliamentary system, they form coalitions and, this, that, and the other.
Right.
Whereas America, you're kind of forced into one of these two parties. And he was saying, you know, they can't do anything, they can't get anything done because blah blah blah. And, I was saying, I mean, that was kind of the point.
Yeah.
When the founders made formed our government, it was formed to be this slow reacting kind of thing. That's why we have all these checks and balances in there. So
Right.
but you can't just. I mean, that's why we're a republic instead of a democracy, because I think it was Jefferson that said, in a pure democracy, 49% of the population can be, basically slaves to the 51%.
Exactly.
And that's why we didn't want the just total democracy. But the government was kind of made to be this slow, lumbering thing that didn't really do anything, and
Yeah. And most of the governmental things would be handled at the local level.
yeah, local level. Yeah.
The local
Look what
closest to
happened. Shooting. It wasn't 2 weeks after the shooting, and they were legislating all kinds of gun control.
Mhm.
You know, that
And
is
if
a
we
perfect
had
example.
that sort of system, that I'm
Exactly.
sure it would have happened after
Exactly.
Sandy Hook or the Parkland shooting or whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly
And
right.
think
Yeah.
about that too, like we talk about the forward thinking, like, do people really need to have guns? Like, think about why we do have them. Why did the
Yeah.
founders put that into the
Yeah.
Constitution?
It's just-
Yeah.
They knew the tyranny of government.
Yeah. You take away the guns and you don't have any way to defend
They
yourself.
took away guns in Venezuela right before things started going to hell. They had all
Nazi
kinds
Germany,
of stuff.
they had a
Nazi Germany the same way. Exactly right.
Yeah. And did you know, Kyle, in 4th grade, I don't know, the kids told you though, that the whole start of where they start in history is the revolution and going through the Constitution and all the way up to, just about the present day.
mhm.
Westward expansion and then, abolition. And I mean, it's just amazing. And it's been so refreshing in a 4th grade class and being able to talk about that. But, Jack and Presley, learned the same thing. So good platform to stand and speak from, and ask them questions about too. So,
Good.
yeah.
But I think
Well-
that about covers most of it.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it, and hopefully, whoever tunes in enjoyed the conversation as well. And we'll come back with another topic, another rousing discussion. It's in the near future.
Right. So in the meantime,
Yep, we invite you
you know,
all to go out there and change your world. We'll see y'all next time.